And then to be able to go, I like this, I don't like this, I want to grow this, I want to reduce this. It's constant work. And I can't go inside of your head and do it for you. I can't possess your body and readjust it so you're okay. You have to do that.
Yeah.
And that's where we get stuck, because we get scared and we don't think we're going to be able to do it. And so we don't try. You don't just magically get buffed by buying the machine and looking at it. You don't get the information simply by buying the book. You have to open up and read it.
Yeah.
You don't get to become the person that you want to be by just dreaming about it. That's part of it. But you have to put the work in.
Yeah.
You don't just magically morph into it. Well, actually, we do by default, and we don't like what we magically morph into because we're not aware of what we're doing.
Welcome back to the Sign Good Health podcast. Today we're back with Paula Eberhardt, and we're going to touch on some stuff, go deeper into stuff that we talked about last time with meditation and kind of looking inside and healing. So Paula, last time we were talking about people are kind of afraid to look inside. They seek distractions, and that can be social media, alcohol, drugs, the darkness and the icky stuff that pops up if you sit alone for 5 seconds. So can you touch on like why you think people are afraid to face the darkness inside us?
I personally believe that we are afraid to look at our own darkness because inherently we know we are light, we are good. So inherently we know what we are. And as a society, we are taught to be good, right? So to admit, it can be really hard to admit to ourselves that, you know what, we're not living up to our full potential. And there have been times in life where I really haven't lived up to my full good potential, where I myself have embodied jealousy and hatred and all those things that don't make us feel good. And to be able to admit that to ourselves can be very difficult, because then we are forced to look at ourselves in our entirety, not just the parts that we're proud of.
That's really interesting with like just, and I'm guessing like with people, do they have, like for me, I'm really good at beating myself up for like not doing all I think I am capable of doing. Would you assume that other people, like everybody has some aspect that they're kind of beating themselves up about?
Yes, it's very common. In 12-step meetings, it's called backing yourself up against the ass-kicking machine. So it is very common. Part of it can be useful, like anything in life, right? It's about balance. So we have that guilt, you know, okay, I'm aware that wasn't my higher self there when I was judging or when I was popping off with a sarcastic, snarky remark.
What you were making me think about was like with, for an example, I guess would be like with that's a pattern of behavior I had to kind of be aware of and break, was just the way sometimes my family or parents interact. It has more of that kind of snarky, backhanded comments stuff. And
Yes.
like when I'm interacting with like my wife or other people, I need to try to not continue that.
We need to remember it's part of conditioning. Part of it has to do with our conditioning, how we were raised, how we were taught to interact with people. Or another part of it is simply the guilt that's produced from that helps us socially to adjust to social norms. And we need that to be able to live together. We can't go around hurting each other. Well, I suppose we could. It's not in our best interest to go around hurting each other, killing each other, stealing from each other. It's not us representing who we really are. And so there's a certain amount of humility that comes with the awareness of, ooh, I didn't like how that turned out, or I didn't like that I did that. And so it kind of guides us and keeps us on course to understand exactly who and what we are. I think people get afraid and they get stuck and we procrastinate because we do remember who we are. and what we are. And we are very powerful. That scares us, right? Or there's the question, oh yeah, well, what if you tell me I'm this powerful and I go for it and none of it's true? So even though we have this longing to improve ourselves and our lives and who we are as people and how we interact with people, there's still that fear. Like, what if it's not true? Or what if it all goes to my head and I become a maniacal person, you know? So it's, I believe it's there for like a checks and balances on ourselves and on each other.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I remember too, like you made me think of like, it's even in the Bible, like the phrase of the meek shall inherit the earth. That doesn't mean like these timid little sissy people are going to end up being in charge. It's because what it translates, and this is, I'm quoting Jordan Peterson here, but what it really means is like the people that have swords and know how to use them, but keep them sheathed, like they have the potential to be dangerous, but are choosing to be good. Like those are the real warrior, like leader people.
Absolutely. And that is so important. We need to remember that old language or language from the past, those words don't always mean what they do today. And you're right with the meek. It's about being humble. It's about knowing your power, knowing yourself, and choosing to use your powers for good, not evil, right?
Right.
But we need to know what we are before we can even begin to, well, no, we do create all the time anyway. But when we know who we are, then we choose what we can create, what we make out of our world, how we use our power, how we use our anger, how we use our passion. Do we use it to yell at people and intimidate them? Or do we redirect it and go, ooh, I'm angry about this, but I'm going to go about it in a way that I know is going to be effective. And that does not include screaming, yelling, or hitting at someone.
Absolutely. Last time we talked about for developing that self-awareness, you want to start with the breath, like what am I feeling? And that,
yes,
just focusing on that can kind of, you start to feel stuff in your body. So can you touch on like, where do you go from there with the meditation process?
Sure. What I teach is first, oftentimes people are so truly disconnected with their physical body, with themselves, with their own thoughts and their own emotions, that we literally have to bring them back into themselves. How I look at it is our body is, and it's been referred to also as a sleeve, or it's a means of transportation, right? We've all heard that, but it also is like the communication hub between our spirit and our mind. And oftentimes when we get to earth, the body can be difficult to learn how to operate. Obviously, we watch it with small children. It's like, whoa, what is this thing and how does it work? Nobody gave me an owner's manual, right? Mm-hmm. So we need someone to show us where the owner's manual is. And that means we need to bring you inside. And how we first begin to anchor is with the breath, because it's an automatic nervous system response, right? We breathe on our own. It's sympathetic. We don't have to think about it. So even our basic bodily functions, our heartbeat, our lungs, are just everything that's going on is sympathetic. We don't have to think about it. So it can be very easy for us to detach from that, or to put up a barrier going, you know what, that's heavy and it's dense and it can really cause me a lot of challenges because I forget where my hands and feet are a lot. So I'm just going to live over here. This is easier. It's calmer over here. We do on some level remember what it's like to be in union on the other side. And we long for that. And so we can have a sense of that. We can travel there. It's just that when we travel there, because it feels so good, sometimes it's hard to come back, and that can really be problematic for people, because it is truly, you're not here. You can, we go there when we daydream. So it's like trying to work with somebody that's daydreaming all the time. It's like, yo, hey, come back inside there. So to bring a person back to center, back into their body with their breath is the first step, because when we become aware, just become aware of our lungs moving in and out, our chest heaving and falling with the breath brings the awareness to the body. And then we can start to manipulate, if you will. We can start to control and have conscious intent about what we're trying to accomplish. So when we're breathing and we're activating our parasympathetic nervous system, the calming part of our nervous system with those breaths and those calculated breaths, then we bring ourselves closer to a state in meditation, or like a trance-like state, also as it can be called, where we can actually shift a little bit, and we can shift into all that we are. So we have access to our subconscious information, which is this enormous storage house of everything we've ever seen, felt, smelt. We are like, we're like sponges, information sponges. That's what our body is there for. It's like to experience our environment in every way, shape, and form that we can. And all that information gets brought through the brain, and the brain goes, oh, cool, this is a lot of stuff and I can't deal with all this right now. Hey, I'm going to send this down. I'm going to send this down. Subconscious, it's coming down. Subconscious stores it all away. It's good to be able to access that, because our subconscious will make all these our brains will make all these crazy connections with experiences, and we need to be able to look at that and go, you know what, is this a valid connection that's being made here? Are all, say I got traumatized by I was in a traumatic situation, and it just so happened when it was happening, a man walked by who had a really hairy arm. And so now I'm afraid of men with hairy arms. My subconscious goes, hairy arms bad, hairy arms bad. And I need to be able to look at that and go, is this rational? Hey, you guys down there, you're putting stuff together that doesn't make any sense. So there's this constant communication between the body, the mind, the subconscious, and the spirit. So to be aware of that and to be able to go into that and look at it, we need to start with the breath. And then we set the intention. Why are you meditating? It really is that simple. Why are you doing something? That's the question that sets the intention. Well, today, and there's all sorts of reasons we can meditate. Well, today I'm meditating because I noticed yesterday I had an interesting emotional response to something that didn't seem to go together. So I want to explore that. I'm looking for answers today. Maybe yesterday or later today, I will meditate for relaxation or to connect to my spirit guides, my creator, Mother Earth, my higher self, my soul. Maybe I need to go into my subconscious and go, hey, what's going on down there? Things seem a little messy because things are messy up here. So I need to look at that. Sometimes my most favorite, good English there, my favorite meditation are the ones where I simply relax into God's arms, my creator. I melt into or flow out into creator. It's a form of stress relief, of course, but with that releasing, it also grounds me and lets me know, you know what? I have all these connections to everything. I don't need to be afraid. That's why I meditate. I'm scared to death here. Life on earth is just really hard often. And we need that. We need that to be able to grow, because we need the tension, right? Just like a plant, just like a seed, it needs the tension to be able to release, to grow. And we don't like the tension because it doesn't feel good. But when I notice the tension, and I do that through chakra awareness, what's buzzing, what's hurting, what's pinging, what's tinging, what's clicking, I can look at that and my subconscious will go, here's something that may relate to that. And my brain goes, oh yeah, that does. Oh yeah, that does. Now I got to work on that.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's a very good point. And I want to make sure we emphasize, like, with meditation and all the healing and stuff, like, it's very much a journey and the process of growth, like that you're not necessarily going to hit a destination.
Yes. Yes. And that is so true. And thank you for bringing up the healing, because yes, we heal ourselves in that spot we get to in meditation, because we are able to look at the soul wounds or the emotional wounds that are causing the physical dis-ease. And then when we heal the soul, we can heal the body. So that is also a way that we meditate. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I do really like what you talked about with setting the intentions. You're making me think of, like, with it related to autism, with what you're talking about stuff, our brain can only process so much, so everything else gets kind of shuttled to the subconscious. And like with autism and the sensory overload, you're like, sometimes you may not be aware that you're overloaded until it's like, you know, so
It's at a crisis level.
Right.
Where we feel like we're being electrocuted, which is very similar to what is truly happening. It's like, zzz.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right about the brain. And that's interesting with autism, because the brain essentially is responsible for two things: taking information in and keeping information out, shuttling it down to the subconscious, if you will. So even things as simple as our workspace or our environment, if there's a lot of clutter around, we are using brain energy to keep the clutter out of our focus. That involves energy, because everything gives off energy. So imagine if I have stacks of papers on my desk, everything vibrates. And we know that from our very basic science classes. Everything's made out of molecules. Molecules are made out of atoms. Atoms are constantly moving. We got things whirring and buzzing around all the time. Electrons. Ooh, so there's constant movement. There's constant vibration. And it's information is what we're getting. We're getting information off stuff. Hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm here. So if we're sitting in an environment where there's all this stuff that's vibrating and buzzing around us, it does become sensory overload, and our brains go, whoa, no more input. I'm overloaded. And the subconscious is going, hey, slow it down. I'm drowning. I can't file fast enough. And we do just shut down. It's how we cope with it sometimes, because it's too much going in and we do get overloaded. And then in addition to what our physical senses are giving us, we have our sixth sense, our energy bodies are picking up stuff too. And that can make it really difficult for us, because we can't see that. We can see what we're smelling oftentimes. We obviously see what we're seeing. We feel when we get touched, but then there's this other stuff that's coming in too. And it's like, and it's just too much. It's just too much sometimes. And our brains do shut down.
Yeah, well, and like even with the sixth sense stuff, like we talked last time, like when you walk into a room and two people have been fighting or whatever, and you get sucked into that wavelength. So
Oh, it's sticky. It's like Velcro. Some
Yeah.
of the lower vibrating energies are like Velcro. Those are the things that I refer to as the sticky ickies, because it's like this flowing tar pit, and it's like, woo, when you get one like even little nano piece of us on it, it's like, and we're off.
because it really resonated with me when you talked about people perceive trauma differently. Like what's a big deal to me may not be a big deal to you. So, and then that can also be like, even with yourself, like this happened to me when I was 8 and it was a big deal, but now I'm 28 and it's like, you know, is this something stupid that happened that long ago? Can we just let it go and move on? So I guess
Right.
the question is like, when is the trauma like worth dealing with, and when is it more just like, okay, you know, yes, I dropped my ice cream cone or whatever.
How I hear that, or how I interpret that, is how do I know if it's trauma or just something that is maybe a resentment towards myself or someone else that I need to forgive?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Trauma produces soul wounds. Our souls are, oh, I just got all clenched up in my heart. Our souls are so valuable that we should not ever not address our soul wounds. That's how we grow. Those are things that have happened to us that we need to learn how to heal. They're also very huge clues as to what we are working on or working towards here on earth for our soul, right? So we always need, I feel that we always need to look at that stuff. And that's why it can be so hard, because the trauma that produced a soul wound was big enough and hurt enough that we're afraid if I look at it again or try to heal it, it's going to break me up even more. That's why it's hard to look. We get really afraid because it hurt so bad the first time, you know, and we weren't able to say to ourselves, this was an experience, not how everything always works all the time. And it certainly does not define who I am. Because my parents, maybe I'm pulling this as just a broad example.
Yeah.
My parents were abusive to me verbally. That might be to someone whose parents were verbally and physically and sexually abusive to them. Being verbally abusive would not be traumatic to that person, but it would be extremely traumatic to me to be verbally abused. So the severity, if you will, or the depth of the trauma depends truly on each individual. Sometimes, like I said, what may seem inconsequential to me hurt you very deeply. And so it's important as people, we remember each other's wounds. Just because it didn't hurt me doesn't mean it didn't hurt you. And when we have interactions with people, to have an awareness that, you know what, everyone has been hurt, and I need to have an awareness of that. And I need to treat people with respect and with gentleness, because we all do have some soul wounds we're working on. And we need to be gentle with each other so we can heal those, so we can be okay with who we are.
So, and this might be too hard of a question, but like, I guess, just because I'm sure it's going to vary with the person and the trauma and whatever. Like, so we start with meditation, and then we develop that awareness and the intention of, like, let's say I want to get over, and if you want, we can keep going with your example of verbally abusive parents, but like, can you describe, like, okay, we're aware of this, like, what does the healing process look like?
The healing process, first of all, I would like to just put it out there, don't, for anyone, I highly advise working with a professional when you're touching traumas, because what can happen is we go there. In healing trauma, we go back there because we're able to do that. We can time travel, if you will. So the memory becomes so acute that it's like I'm right there again. And if you're not reminded, hey, different time, different space, you're still here, you know, you need a tether, because it's easy to get stuck there. And we have been stuck there. We just don't go all the way back into it, usually, over and over. Well, actually, we do. We do. We don't want someone to stay stuck in there where we acutely unbutton them and then walk away, or have somebody unbutton or expose their traumas in their entirety and be alone and be terrified because they are literally reliving it. Their body is responding the same way. Their emotions are the same way. I mean, heartbeats increase, anxiety increases. It's not pleasant. We need help. We need a tether. We can do it ourselves. I don't advise to do that. Even myself, when I have addressed my traumas, I do so with a professional, another professional that says, hey, I need you to breathe. I need you to tap and, you know, pay attention. You're here. You're safe. I'm here for you. I'm here for you. We all need to say that to each other.
I'll completely agree with Paula, where like I've found counseling extremely helpful throughout my life. And yeah, so just there are trained people that can help you with this, and it's not something that you want to play around with necessarily by yourself.
Yes, the meditation piece, as it relates to the trauma, when we're doing individual, private, if you will, just one-on-one with ourself meditations, comes with just the being aware and, okay, I know that I've been traumatized. I know that I visit that. You know, I have become aware of that. Sometimes we don't know we've been traumatized, or we don't know why. Addiction in and of itself is a continual trauma. Just the experiences that happen from it, the biological changes. I mean, we drink and do drugs, and we're poisoning our bodies. You know, it's shocking to us. You know, our bodies don't respond well to methamphetamine. Ugh, it's shocking, right? Alcohol is destructive. So every piece of us becomes traumatized in addiction. And then there's, of course, the arrest and the legal stuff and CPS that gets involved in all of it is so, oh, it's that's what it is. It's so much.
Yeah.
So the meditation allows us to stop and listen to ourselves. How we do that is first we center with the breath. We need to calm ourselves down enough so we can actually pay attention to what we're hearing ourselves saying to ourselves. Our brains love to get involved. And that's the really sticky part. That's the sticky widget of meditation, because our brains are like, yo, I'm in charge. I'm the protector, right? I'm the sentinel. Yo, I'm here to protect you. I'm here to make sure your body stays alive because you need it. You're doing something important here. You need your body. I'm here to make sure that you stay safe and that you stay alive. So I need to know what's going on all the time. And so we start to relax, where we're letting these negative emotions go. And our brain goes, wait, what's going on? We got some stuff moving here. You're trying to do something without me, not going to happen. So it starts chattering. And it starts going, you know, pay attention to me. Don't forget, you can't stay in here too long because your day consists of this and this and this and this and this. And if you run behind, you're totally screwed and everything's going to go bad. So you need to come out of here, blah, 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 blah. That's normal. It happens. The key is to be able to go, oh, look at my chattery brain. Look at it go. Oh, wow, I didn't know that I had that many thoughts all the time. Wow, that's interesting. Ooh, look at that one. So to notice that we are thinking, absolutely. I'm thinking, but right now I'm choosing not to pay attention. So I'm going to just let those go by. It's when we hook onto a thought and we pull it to ourselves, and then we start ruminating, and we will never get to the place that we're going to, because those thoughts literally are holding us in our body.
Yeah.
So to notice them, let them go. We can even blow them away. But to get to that point where we can hear, we can sense ourselves.
Yeah, and the words that have helped me was when I've read about meditation and stuff and then tried it, it's like just the words of like, don't judge your thoughts as you're having them. And it's just like you're saying, like just you notice the thoughts, but then for me, it's just the saying, like, don't judge it, don't worry about it. Like,
yeah,
you don't need to think about your thinking at this point.
Just put it in neutral. It's just a thought. I had actually a counselor had to keep reminding me of that years and years and years ago. Paula, just put it in neutral. It's not good or bad or right or wrong or black and white.
Yeah.
It just is. Put it in neutral. And then it dawned on me, oh, ding. That's interesting, not bad.
Yeah.
That makes me curious. I want to look at that more, not, oh my God, that's terrible. I just judged someone terribly. Oh my gosh, we do it to ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
You idiot, you moron. Oh my gosh, how could you do that? Why didn't you catch that mistake? How could you have done that? you know, we are mean to ourselves. That's that ass kicking machine we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
And that's why we can't come to peace.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because like we were talking about not judging, but then with like meditation and personal growth and emotional intelligence and whatever, we also, on the other hand, need to evaluate our patterns and our ways of thinking and try to
Mhm.
improve them to a healthier way. So it's like, it's that paradoxical stuff.
The universe loves riddles.
Yeah.
I think it keeps us on our toes and it keeps us thinking, because it's like, well, you said this, but you mean this? What?
Yeah.
And you know, historically, what riddles are fun? People love riddles. We recognize the riddles in the universe, right? We
Mhm.
have to solve a riddle. We have to solve a riddle to be able to go into the next cave. Or we need to solve a riddle to be able to meet some cosmic master that we have a question for. Our folklore gives us clues also to how we operate and how we are put together, how our universe works.
Yeah. It just reminded me of, there's some story about this guy that went to, I'm just going to say some kind of monk temple. I don't know if it was Shaolin specifically or whatever, but just he talked about like there are different levels of enlightenment or whatever. I don't know.
Consciousness.
Sure. But but the point was you had to answer these riddles, and like the one he had to figure out, that took him a long time, because it's like, what is a tree blowing in the wind sound like or look like or whatever? And so he went like, and that's obviously not the answer, because and then he eventually, after weeks or whatever, he had to figure out, just like he just gestured to like, because it's, the point was it's like natural, it's just like it's part of the world around us, so that was the answer of just that. And then he
Yes.
realized like, okay, that's not for him, that, or subsequent levels are not for him, because it's like figuring that out didn't make him feel any differently, you know.
Oh, sure.
So
And yeah, I agree with that. I have that sense too, you know, that we do need to answer the riddle, or we need to discover something about ourselves in order to be able to access more information about ourselves. That's where the bending the bar comes back in. But yeah, it can be a bugger. It's like, what do you, ah,
yeah. And then this might be a good time to bring up the other story that I read about, with like the dark side of meditation. And like we said earlier, very important to be doing this stuff with a counselor, because this was a story, and I can't find it when I was trying to research for this, but it was about a lady that went to this hardcore 7-day meditation retreat, and she ended up having like very severe psychotic episodes, and this lasted for like years after. And the article talked about it, criticized, because with meditation, when you're reading about it online, you never see anybody talking about the dark sides of it. But like you're talking about, it's very much, it's there, it can happen, and we all have this darkness inside of us. So setting that intention is very important.
it is. When I was learning about, I guess, various religious practices, some of them, and when I first started playing with energy, I had inadvertently, I guess, summoned, I don't know, because I won't go back there. Inadvertently, I had somehow found myself in the presence of energy that was so terrifying to me that my natural reaction was to start saying the Lord's Prayer, and I smudged my entire house. Our intentions are very important. The dark side is real. You know, we have a dark side. We have to, it has to be. All things in balance, right? There is nothing if there aren't two polarities, right? Because there's nothing to compare to, then we have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So there needs to be the dark to balance the light, yin and yang, right? For myself, after having had that experience, I inadvertently had it. And I wasn't in a meditation, I was doing something else. Well beyond my scope of what I should be playing with. And anyway, so yeah, we can access that stuff if that's what we're looking for. What are you looking for? I'm looking for where I can improve myself. I'm not looking for the dark side. I am open to look at my shadow self, if you will, those things that I want to improve upon. I'm not willing to go to the dark side. I'm not willing to go into the shadow world because I went there or I drew it to me once and I want nothing to do with it. I'm aware that it's there. My intentions, I always try and keep them. I have some clients say to me, well, you should know this. And I go, well, I do know it cognitively, but you know what? I'm still human too. And I still need to practice this stuff. And I fail often. But I always try to set my intentions for good. I am looking in this meditation to improve myself. I am not looking to go somewhere where there is a lack of good or a lack of light or a lack of God. I'm not willing to go there because I've experienced it. And maybe that's why I experienced it. So I would have a very deep, deep respect that the universe is far more complex than my puny human mind can even begin to comprehend.
Right.
And with that respect, it's an awesome respect. And I leave that one to God because I want nothing. I don't want to go there again. So it is your intention. If that's what you're looking for, that's what you will get. If that's what you're terrified of, that's what you will get. Because where focus goes, right? Energy flows.
Yeah.
What we focus on, we attract to us, and that includes our fears. Have I seen some scary things to myself? Absolutely. When I go there, but they're simply startling or they're scary or they're concerning where, oh, Paula, oh, I didn't know that was there. I'm not sure I really like that. Oh, thank you for showing me that. Or, you know, I can get scared. I will see things that are a definite warning sign. You know, we do see those things. If we don't want to see them, we won't. But they're there. And tread lightly. What's that t-shirt saying? Dragons like us because you're crunchy and good with milk. Right?
Yeah.
Be cautious. But that again comes down to mindfulness. What are your intentions? Are you using your superpowers for good or evil? Because you can have whatever you want. So be careful what you wish for. We've been warned about that many times. Be careful what you wish for. Thank God for unanswered prayers, because we as humans are kind of like little kids and we're like, ooh, what's that? I'm gonna play with that. Don't tell me I can't go there. Don't tell me I can't do that. Even as adults, we kind of carry that with us because we're naturally curious.
Yeah.
Don't tell me I can't look at something. I want to check that out. Do so at your own risk. Thank you very much.
Right.
Not in my house.
And so a book I read is called Feeding Your Demons, and it's based off of like Buddhist religion philosophy stuff. So what it goes through how to do like a ritual where you have the two cushions and you sit and you physically like, well, you set that intention, like what am I gonna meditate on? And it's usually, she recommends, it's like, you know, that thing that you're afraid to delve into might be the one that needs the most addressing. And
absolutely.
so you sit and you kind of, and I haven't had success with the visualizing a demon aspect, and I'll talk about my process after this, but the point is like she visualizes the demon and then she kind of asks it like what it needs, and then you physically get up from the one cushion and move to the other one and kind of like embody it and nourish what that part of you. And that's the thing, it's like it's not this like devil from, or demon or whatever, from something external. It's from within you. So to me, like, that helps, because it's like it makes it less scary, because it's more about self-mastery.
Yes.
So, but it also reflects with what we've been talking about in the last one and this podcast, with like, and then, so after you do nourish the demon, you shift back to the other cushion. And she also strongly recommends keeping a journal of all the experiences and what you discovered.
Yes.
But what we've talked about, it kind of parallels with, like, it's about more, even if you're not physically or mentally visualizing and manifesting a demon entity, it's about just more listening to yourself and figuring out, what do you really, really need?
Yes. Know thyself. Before we start to do any sort of, it sounds like what you're referring to is like shadow work, right? Facing our shadows. Know thyself. Because if you go there and you don't know thyself, you can get lost there, because you don't know where you need to return to. Where am I? Who am I? I am not my shadow. My shadow is part of me, absolutely. But I'm not going to live in my shadow. I'm not going to let my shadow over embody me. When I can bring them together as one, my shadow and my light, my yin and my yang, my good and my bad, however we want to label it. Humans love labels. When I can bring them together, that is who I am. To live in either one or the other is not realistic. It's just not. So we need to embody that, but we need to know ourselves first. We need to be aware of ourselves. We need to be aware of our body. We need to know what makes us tick and what makes us afraid.
Yeah. And to kind of tie stuff together, like for myself, growing up, I was, I'll just say, angry at the world with, and it can be autism plus just being a teenager.
Yeah.
And getting into MMA and stuff. And like, it was partway through college where it wasn't any dramatic moment, but I just realized over time that I wasn't angry at the world anymore. And I guess when I've thought about that, it goes back to what we were saying earlier with like the meek and the swords, and like, so now with MMA and emotional intelligence and stuff, like, I know how to fight. So if the worst happens, I have that in my back pocket. And then, but also I'm just that much more better at social skills. So I've been working a lot on assertiveness, because just punching somebody if they piss me off is not an appropriate answer. So it's like, what else?
Yeah, people don't like that.
So it's interesting, because there was a time where it's like, yeah, I can fight, but I'm not very good at assertiveness. So it's like, well, that sucks. So, but
yes, and that's part of knowing yourself, Alex. That's part of working with our shadows. So we have this, all of us have that, you're making me mad. I just want to oink you, pop you one. We all have that. Some of us aren't aware that that's our default button. And so until we become aware of it, we can't manage it. So the wisdom comes with knowing and integrating that all things in balance, that anger is there. Absolutely. That aggressiveness is there. I can be very animalistic, right? But because I know it's there, now I'm paying attention to you, and I know that it can be used to my benefit if that is my last resort.
Right.
But I know that it's there, and I know that I can choose when to pull it up and when to keep it in my back pocket.
Yeah.
That's where our power comes in.
Yeah. And I've had multiple experiences where I've wanted to physically hurt somebody, and probably would have been at least partially justified. I'm not going to say 100%, because it's, never going to be absolute, but still. But the fact that I've retained control in those very, like, my brain is like, kill him, or whatever.
Right.
But I can
make it stop, make it go away.
I can keep that under control. To me, speaks that I've had a lot of success and growth with that particular demon, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So
And they are like demons, because when we get in a really heightened state of mind like that, anger can push us there, but it's always driven by something else. But anyway, when we get into that really heightened state of emotion, we literally flip our lids. Our brains can't communicate with itself. And so our limbic system, which is our protective piece of us, just takes over and says, get out of the way. There's danger. I'm in control.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's like, I've noticed this with myself. I'll watch myself do something and it's like, I'm like, no, and I can't stop it. And that piece of me that I'm going, no, don't do it. Like turns around and goes, try to stop me. And it's like, oh, and it can be really frustrating. And it is a lot of work to finally be able to go, no, I said stop.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of work.
Yeah. So for people that care, my personal approach for like meditation is I like sitting outside, and that can be like my backyard, or when I was in Granite Falls, there was a river like right by my apartment, so I spent a lot of time sitting by there. And then when I was in Detroit Lakes, the apartment had a balcony. So, but I think the outside part, and then the other super important components are like, I mean, it's obvious, having quiet and no distractions, but also give yourself the time to do it right. So like you were saying earlier with like your brain has like, okay, you got to do this, 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 this. And it's like, this is what we're doing right now. So, and then I like having like a notebook, and I'll kind of flip back and forth with journaling and thinking about stuff. And then when I am able to so I do that, but then I also do talk with a counselor periodically. Currently I'm doing every 2 weeks. It's kind of varied depending on stages of my life, if I want like weekly or every 2 weeks or once in a while or whatever. So, so it's, and that's the other thing for people too, like we recommend counseling, but you also have to do the work. Like the counselor's not going to do it for you. So
can't. I would love to be able to give somebody the gift of peace of mind and healing, to go, hey, this is awesome. Or to be able to find that switch where you can go flip, okay, you're all better now. And isn't that what we're all looking for? Right. Hey, you're all better now. But it involves the reason it's so difficult, or can be so difficult, is it involves raising our awareness and keeping it there, so we can observe what's happening with ourselves, and then to be able to go, I like this, I don't like this, I want to grow this, I want to reduce this. It's constant work, and I can't go inside of your head and do it for you. I can't possess your body and readjust it so you're okay. You have to do that. And that's where we get stuck, because we get scared and we don't think we're going to be able to do it. And so we don't try. Yeah. And because it does sound magical, right? Yeah. It sounds like miraculous. Who am I to do the miraculous? Yeah. Well, who are you not? I mean, that even parallels back into fitness with like, people think that either hiring a trainer or buying a magical pill or exercise equipment is going to make them into the person that's putting the work in and eating well to get in shape. Right. You don't just magically get buffed by buying the machine and looking at it. You don't get the information simply by buying the book. You have to open up and read it. Yeah. You don't get to become the person that you want to be by just dreaming about it. That's part of it. But you have to put the work in. Yeah. You don't just magically morph into it. Well, actually we do by default, and we don't like what we magically morph into because we're not aware of what we're doing. Yeah. And like, that's true too. It's like with the awareness, and it's like, if you're not changing something, you're going to keep getting the same result. So if you don't like what you're doing, but you're not doing anything to fix it, nothing's going to happen. You're going to keep getting the same results. And that truly is the law of attraction. Yeah. In motion. So with counseling, and the higher level of self-awareness that I have helps me get a lot more out of the counseling session, because
I have that awareness, and then the counselor can help me, like, okay, this and this, and it's
Yeah,
not the counselor having the answers. It's with my awareness and their training and stuff, it's kind of prompting me to figure out my own questions, and sometimes they can help me get out of the forest to see the trees, or however that phrase goes, you know.
you're exactly right. You nailed it. That's exactly what counseling does. We encourage you to find your own answers. I can give you some ideas on what I maybe think those answers are, or what my intuition is telling me, hey, ask this, you
Mhm.
know. We can help guide you and help you explore that, but only you can find your answers. That's up to you.
Yeah.
And with counseling, with the guidance like that, you know, the prompting, or what do you think of this? Have you ever looked at this? It like fast tracks us.
Yeah. And that, yeah, like if you are already putting the work in, you can get that much more out of counseling, because then you, the
Yeah.
counselor, don't have to help me figure out what I think.
Yes, you already have an idea. And then the counselor says, have you ever considered this? Or have you ever considered this? Or what do you think about this? Or here's what I see. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
And so now we have two heads working together, right? And so the ideas that are generated and the possibilities and the potentials become twofold instead of just one. Actually, they become more than that. What is it? Synergy, right? 1 + 1 = 3.
Right.
That's what we're working with. That's when the energy starts moving.
Yeah.
That's when we start growing.
Yeah. So we went through my process of how I've grown and meditate and stuff. So can you just touch on the different types of meditation? Like that can be like guiding or guided or solo, or kind of figuring out your own process. And then
Yeah.
with that, like, are there patterns to what you've seen that are helpful or not helpful to people? And that kind of touches on like what we said with no distractions, give yourself enough time to do it right.
Yeah, the basics are of utmost importance. Make sure you're not going to get interrupted. This is hard when we're moms or dads, you know, there's kids everywhere and what have you. Hey, here's the deal. I need I need half an hour. I'm going to be in the bathroom. I don't know. I'm going to be in my bedroom, wherever it is. Or can you take the kids for a half an hour? We need to make sure that we're not distracted. Turn your phone off. You don't need it. I listen to meditations on my phone, guided meditations on my phone. Oftentimes I'll turn on the do not disturb, because even those text messages coming in it jolts you back into your body. So yes, absolutely. Make sure that you're not distracted, that you can focus on yourself. But the types of meditation are there's so many of them.
Mhm.
You know, there's walking meditation where we focus on our body's movement and our connection to earth. There's oh gosh, there's breathing meditations. We do meditation where we color mandalas. There's so many. There's creative ones that are intentional. You know, this is my intention, is to create abundance for myself. Guided meditations are when there's somebody's voice helping us. It's hypnotherapy is what a guided meditation is. There's partially guided meditations that help us set the intention and then just let us go. You know, I do some work with that with my groups where the intention is set. Okay, so there's a brief introduction and says, say, today we're working on personal power, and it'll give you just a little idea of what personal power is. So it sets that intention, it gets the person thinking about it. And then it's followed by a soundscape, which is noises and music and what have you that allow you to just relax. And so there's that as well. You know, whatever you're comfortable with, truly. Sometimes I sit in utter peace and quiet, nothing. There's candle meditation. Sometimes I'll focus on a candle, you know, or focus on an object that I want to get the sense of, like, say I want to increase my feelings of love. So I will get out something that, like, my sister has given me, because it reminds me of her and it fills me with love. And so I will focus on that and focus on increasing that, turning the volume up on it. You know, we can focus with crystals. or excuse me, meditate by focusing on crystals or holding crystals. The aromatherapy helps us get into that state. We can focus on scents, and we can focus on just music if we want. Play. Sometimes I have meditations that are just playful. I'll turn on music and light a candle and have my diffuser going. And it's like I can dance on all these wavelengths when I get there. And it's beautiful. And the music makes colors, and the colors have smells. And it's this ineffable, beautiful, wonderful experience.
Mhm.
That's what I use meditation for. So many things, and the type depends on what I'm going for.
Yeah.
Being out in nature is huge. It is for me as well. I heard you say that, and I think the reason for that is because it truly brings us closer to Creator. Yes, when we are inside, of course, we have access to the light and the air and the beautiful things in nature, the natural things. But when we're out in it, we become one with it, or we can become one with it. The presence is, yes, it's there, and we feel closer to Creator.
Mhm. And then another style that I've done that I guess I'll just get your thoughts on. So I like the binaural beats with like trance music and stuff.
Yeah.
I guess I was gonna ask about like the problem is like if I do that, and I'm not setting myself up for success anyway. But I fall
Well,
asleep.
there you go.
No, like I was just gonna say I fall asleep usually when I do that. So I was gonna ask you, like, is that necessarily a bad thing?
No, when we sleep, we have access to our subconscious,
That's
right?
what I thought. And
So it's
like,
like that stuff gets filtered and your subconscious, but it's nice to keep the awareness, because then you will see what's happening.
yeah. And we did talk a little bit last time, and we can try more now. Just kind of learning to think in the dream metaphor language, but then you also have to combine that with what's going on in your life.
Being able to analyze it, being able to analyze those messages. Our subconscious speaks to us in symbols, right? So, I'm going to bring up tarot cards. Same thing. It's a game. Actually, it was originated as a game, but it speaks to us in symbols. So, for instance, the death card. Everyone's afraid of the death card. It has the Grim Reaper on it, and it's like, oh my God, am I gonna die? No. We need to look at it symbolically. What is death? It is the ending of something.
Right.
We often think of it as the end of life, which absolutely it is, but it's so much more than that. It could be the ending of a time that's giving you stress,
Or a bad habit
so
or something.
a bad habit, anything. So we need to be able to say, our subconscious goes, hey, Grim Reaper, check this out. We can't look at it and go, I'm gonna die, because then if that belief truly takes root, we're gonna die.
Right.
That's all there is to it. If it takes root, we're going to die. So we need to be able to look at it and go, death card, what else could that mean? Because you know what? I'm healthy. Doctor hasn't told me anything else. I feel good. Body's good. So what does this mean? That's where how we interpret things, we need to be able to incorporate not only our emotional brain, which includes our subconscious, those symbols, those feelings, that emotional touchy-feely stuff, with the inner Spock we all have, our inner logic. We need to be able to take the two of them, where, for myself, I think of it as, hey, check out all this stuff I got. Hey, check this out. Oh, it makes me feel so good. Or, oh, it makes me feel so scary. And I bring it to my Spock, and he goes, okay, just the facts. Let's look at this. And I'm like, oh, you're such a wet blanket, but I need him. Otherwise I stay over in emotional land, which is none of it's good or bad. I like being there. I do well there most of the time. Most of the time.
Yeah.
But I need my inner Spock. He's not as present as much as I would like him to be, but we need that. So we're able to truly filter out the information and come to a logical conclusion based also on emotion.
Yeah. Well, and for myself, like, I don't know how much weight you put into the Myers-Briggs thing. And it's like, I test very close on the thinking and feeling, like they're very close to each other. And my interpretation of that is that the logic and the feelings are pretty well in balance. And to me, that's good because, we talk about like incorporating the light and dark, and it's like, logic and thinking is good and feelings matter too. So it's like, to me, that they're very close is healthy. Because
Yeah, well, psychological test, Alex.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you this. When you got your results from your Myers-Briggs, were you surprised?
I don't think so.
Mm-mm. I love psych tests. They're fun. They validate what we already know about ourselves. And they give us permission to say, yeah, I am this. Yep, you're right, you were. But they can change too, according to how we answer and interpret the questions.
Right.
Depends on our mood.
Yeah. Like there's one different test that I think it was Ocean, because my conscientiousness was lower than I would have liked to admit about myself. But
right.
I also took it at a period of life where I was not, I think I'm not the most anyway, but I think my particular mindset during that span of time where I was taking it was kind of beating myself up for it. So it's that negative spiral. So.
And then we become our own self-fulfilling prophecy. And then we wonder why all these bad things keep happening to us.
Right.
Right?
So.
But Alex, I have to go. I have to, get my kids in the car. This was so fun. Oh my gosh, I wasn't as nervous today. And this was so fun. Are we gonna do it again? Right?
Yeah, we'll figure out more. We'll figure out more topics. But I was just gonna wrap up with like trauma, past or present. The pain may not ever fully go away, but it's about managing it and getting it down to a level where you can function in day-to-day life. Yeah.
The memory will never go away because it's been recorded. Everything's been recorded. And so the memory will never go away. What can go away is the longing to jump back into it emotionally. We're able to look at it, and the healing process includes being able to look at that trauma, understand it, maybe accept that there was a lesson that we learned from it, because there is. Find the lesson. Where's the gift? The trauma was horrible, but there was a gift from it. And I have come to see that the magnitude of the gift is directly correlated to the what am I trying to say? The devastation, the intensity, yes, of the trauma. So we need to look for the gifts. That helps us heal. Then it puts us in a state of gratitude and grace and ability to forgive ourselves and others, to go, you know what? Thank you for that horrible, horrible situation, because without that, I would never have gained this. Thank you for the death of my husband. I often say, not that I'm glad he's gone, but had he not died, which was awfully crushing and breaking and shattering, had he not died, I would never know what I'm capable of as my own woman, as my own person. What am I capable of? I don't know. I still don't know, but I know he gave me a gift. He said, you know what? You need to do this. This is a greater gift for you than I am. And I love you that much, where I'm able to step out of the picture to allow you to grow into what you need to.
Yeah, so I think that's a good way to wrap this up. So again, thanks for being on the show, and we'll definitely keep talking with Paula because she's awesome and knows her stuff.
Thanks, Alex. And it is a pleasure to visit with you as well. Have a wonderful day.
You too.